Hey, Scott Eustace, Healthy Golf. So how do we find new pipelines before they go on public notice? Uh, how do we predict where they're going to go um, when we're looking in the Louisiana coastal zone? Um, I found there's, there's the Sunrise databases. And I found the easiest way to use them, which is accessing the map and getting the 8-digit code. Um, I've got some instructions for that. We use old codes, old pipelines to find new pipelines because, not only do all the pipelines hurt the same people all the time, they often use the same rights of way. Right. And this is incredibly racist. It's also uh, tied to the real estate value of the land, which is also incredibly racist. Unfortunately, the industry is incredibly predictable on where things go. It's really sad to say. But we can use that to find out information that's never publicly noticed, not on the LDNR Office of Coastal Management website. This does give me a certain amount of paranoia because this is just updated continually by the regulator, but it's the best way to do it. So that's why to do it. We're gonna get the maps before we even get a public notice. So it's good to be on point. Um, so the live map link is where I start. Rather than starting over, going to sonras.com, clicking on the GIS, getting the entire map of Louisiana, and then being overwhelmed by, 200,000 permits, we can target our searches to particular locations in the PR announcements. And that will help us tremendously. And we can do that not with a bounding box, but with where the old pipelines are. So I have, for this example, the old Air Products to Sorrento waste injection pipeline, because we're looking for the new Air Products to Lake Maurepas waste injection pipeline. So I can click on that. Maybe I should do it live just to show you. I'm sorry, this is a Shell waste injection pipeline, slightly different. But the live map, it's 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 a way by which the coastal regulator is determining consistency. So you see a radius, and then there are certain things like CPRA restoration projects, which if they're in that radius, they're returned. If there are archaeological investigations within that red radius, it's returned in the GIS report. And then it has to undergo consistency review, both with CPRA and with the State Historic Preservation Office. Also, state lands. If there's state lands that intersect, there's a lot of regulatory functions that the GIS does just by giving the regulator this two-dimensional intersection, rapid capability. But we're going to take those buffers off. It's a 1 mile buffer and then a 1/4 mile buffer. Look at this old pipeline. We're not going to look at oil and gas wells right now. We're not going to look at mineral resources and leases and that kind of stuff. We're going to look at the wetlands permits. And there's a lot under coastal management. There's a lot of stuff down here about parks. There's the 5-foot contour. There's environmental management units. There's even old NWI data, old mitigation, old consistency files. Don't deal with that too much. I'm going to turn off the seismic layer. Well, hang on. We can go down to the bottom to get recent imagery, and we use color infrared imagery. Just it's going to make everything pop a little bit better. And the server gets slower all the time. So this isn't even a 20th of the pipelines, and we're missing a lot of points as well. So the seismic 3D, I refer to this elsewhere, but these are surveys that companies have done in the past. They needed a permit because it's tens of thousands of detonations, right? So that's one class of permit. You can turn that off. There's polygons. I turn that off. Usually polygons are kind of lagniappe. What we really want to search are lines and points. So we can kind of use the shape of that existing waste pipeline, and maybe we know where the air products property is. So I'm going to go a little bit west of it, use that as a bounding box. In that bounding box, you're going to get a lot of permits. Not all of them are being displayed right now, which is kind of disappointing. But we can look at the, you can click on, it brings up this rectangle tool result from coastal permits lines. You can download this Excel file. It gives you a list of index numbers, right? And document access links. You can click on this. This is the old document access. Ugh, it's a million files. Very hard to know what's even in there. Sometimes when I used to search that. I don't have the time anymore. But I think this is useful if when I'm searching a location like this, I'm just looking for the most recent thing. So really an application, if it has a number that says 2020 blah 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 on it, that is either happened or withdrawn, it was noticed, right? Really, it's 2023, think 2 years before now. We want to check everything back to 2021. So we really want to click on these 5 links. This gives you the brief file, and this is air products and chemicals. The most recent thing happening in that bounded box is an air products and chemicals pipeline. Oh my gosh. Is this the thing they're talking about? You'll note that there's some interesting things in the description. It's only a 9,900 linear feet length of 12-inch diameter hydrogen pipeline, right? Okay, that's not the pipeline that we're waiting for, but you see you've got a bunch of the information here. Now that you've found this, well, I guess we want to do the 5 other ones. Newsflash, they're nothing interesting. Some of it is, the parish dredging after Ida. Some of it is some other digging for utilities. But we've clicked on this number. This brief is your gateway to the all of the application information. So you can click, this is your permit process index. Click on application. There's 4 applications appear briefly, and it auto sends you to the most recent one where, you can do a control F acres and get the acreages of wetlands impacted. This says 12.41 acres. Really? And it was approved without authorization granted. You can go to the impacts. This tells you the wetland acres. Oh, I see. It was approved because all the habitat code is upland. Right. And you can even go through, it says 12.6 in the application and 10.6 here because, yeah, and no mitigation is required, probably because it's an upland. It says, yeah, things are exempt because it's above the 5-foot contour or it's a 1-year growing period. Anyway, we can create a bunch of stable links, and we can even create a comment on this application link if we have this 9-character number. Let's see, because again, if you go to electronic files, it says add comments. This is also at the bottom of the view comments screen, this link, but it's a stable link, and you can add your address, and Google auto populates my professional address. Yuck, hit. We can comment to the regulator using this form. We can also see a lot of other things. You can see everybody else's comments. Here's Craig at Office of Coastal Management saying most of this is above the uh, above the 5-foot contour. It's entirely on land. It should classify upland agriculture or upland oil and gas. I was wondering what that was. The UUO code. They have a land type called oil and gas. All right. But there should be no impacts to vegetated wetlands from the project. You can see the Corps' correspondence or LDEQ's correspondence. The Corps issues a nationwide 12 for this pipeline. Fascinating. So I've put that I put that in our map search as something new that's found, and then I put it onto my list here. Because these URLs are stable and they just change with the 9 digits, you can create a simple concatenate function to get us back to that comment record page, right? Once you know the number. Boom. I'm even experimenting with creating wetland impact and mitigation codes for the same thing. So for that little pipeline, we can click on and find the wetland impact page and click through there to this file. You'll notice that this isn't what's in the application and it's not what's in the comment record. So that's really fun. The application says the wetland impacts are 12.61 acres. The impacts table, which I take as authoritative because it's called the impacts database, says 10.61 that don't have to be mitigated. Why? Because half of it is above the 5-foot contour, and then the other half are not vegetated. Okay. So not all of that information is in this table, but because this is in an HTML thing, it's probably scrapable. I just need one method target. So now that I've found this and I've logged it in the search sheet, I'm going to put it in the air products permit tracker, right? Now this permit isn't necessarily related to the large ammonia project. This is the existing SMR hydrogen facility, and it's just creating a new pipeline to tie into their other pipeline. But we want to record it, especially if we want to talk about the cumulative impacts of air products, which we definitely want to do when we're talking about LNG, because there's so many different permits. So yeah, we've used that one pipeline to search an area. Let me show you how I search for any activity in Perry Ridge where Gulf Coast sequestration is operating. I picked a pipeline in Perry Ridge. It's all the way on the other side of the state, right? Closer to Orange, Texas, even. Because, we know Gray Stream wants to drill in his wetlands over there. I picked a pipeline because he's going to have to get the material to the injection site somehow, and that is a pipeline. So we can search, again, I'm going to search the points. I think last example, I searched the lines. Search the points for this bounding box of this area. And we're looking for anything with 2023 or 2022. So we can click on this date and boom, injection well site number 1. I think this points is going to give you more, it's going to return more than the lines will, which is good and bad. So if I went through all of this, the other thing about points is that it gives you a description, which is nice. The lines doesn't give you the description. So you can see, do I want to click on 2022-0199 to check if it's Gulf Coast sequestration? Because it's just, we know it's removing a power pole. That's likely to be Entergy. So the type is very helpful. Injection site number 1. And low, we found a Gulf Coast sequestration permit. I'm going to mark that number in my tracker list. Mark it in my sample spreadsheet to keep track of it, that I found the Gulf Coast sequestration wells. If we want to know the wetlands impacts, we can post it in here. And we might not have that yet. There are going to be wetlands impacts here, but it hasn't been added to a database yet. This application is, we can read here that the application has been received and it's incomplete. We can look at the electronic files. You can see it's very short. We can look at the GIS report for archaeological conflicts. It's not on. You know, this is interesting because there's some conflicts with existing restoration projects. I know Moni Cardin was interested in that. It conflicts with 3 mitigation projects. And oh, they used to have the SHPO reference on here, and maybe they took that off, or maybe there are no conflicts. But this gives you, as you can see, the blue is within a 1/4 mile, and the white is within a 1 mile buffer. And you can also look, you know, what's been the progress. You know, they received an application, they reviewed it in the end of February. They said it was incomplete, and Catherine Burns called them to say, hey, we need more information for this. So, right. That is my review of how to find information. I think as we move forward, I might digitize these bounding boxes to send them to you if that helps you understand or helps automate this process. But for now, I'm just going to use these existing permits to help me scope for the new permits. All right. And this is the big pipeline footprint. So this one should be fun. I'm going to sign off and then do this one. All right. Peace.